Hi, Sherry. Thank you for meeting with me today.
Hi, my
Hi.
pleasure.
Yeah. So just in a few minutes, just tell us about yourself and what you do.
Um, I am Sherry Borshoff. I'm married, have been for 32 years. My kids are grown. Um, I started my accounting firm uh, going into my 12th year now. I think it's kind of surreal how many years I've been doing this now. Um, I'm an enrolled agent, which means I'm licensed by the federal government to practice before the IRS to represent taxpayers. So I do that as part of my practice, as well as the other accounting and tax services like bookkeeping, payroll, tax planning, tax preparation, all of those things. But I do have a fair amount of tax resolution cases that come to me. And that's usually because the taxpayers try to do things on their own to try to save money. And then they didn't know what they didn't know. So they got into trouble with the tax agencies. And so they need somebody who speaks the language to be able to go and represent them and negotiate either an offer and compromise if they qualify financially, or usually we just get payment agreements or modified payment agreements so that, you know, the liens can be released from that taxpayer's file. Anytime you owe 10,000 or more to the IRS, just FYI, there is going to be a lien. Especially if they've been sending you letters and they're not getting anywhere in the collections. So that's pretty much, I mean, I'm married. I have two daughters. They're both in their 30s, so they're grown and out of the house and doing their own things. Our youngest daughter does work in our office. She's our office manager. My husband and I share office space. He's an insurance agent. Just seemed like it was just a natural thing to do, to share resources. And I don't know, what else do you want to know?
Well, what were you doing before you started your business?
Before I started my business, I worked for a CPA firm for a while. And then when my kids were little, my husband was kind of like, you know, they were having me travel a lot and do audits, which I really that wasn't my favorite thing to do, because those business owners didn't want you there. And so it was, you know, it wasn't a hard sell for him to say, you know, you can't be traveling all the time. We got young kids at home. You need to be at home for your kids. And so I went into a corporate job, which was a multi-unit restaurant company who needed a controller, and fell into an IT role largely, as that role required a lot of integration between the restaurants and the home office. There were 26 restaurants in their chain, and they wanted to gather data without having to rely on the managers doing spreadsheets, which can be fudged, for lack of a better word. You know, so hooking up all those POS systems so that the data would feed into the corporate office and give us the financial data, and also set up systems where there were checks and balances. So if we paid the bills, we knew that that manager had signed off that they had actually received the products that they ordered. So Yes, I was a controller. Yes, I did the financial statements, both ways. I did it for each unit as well as a consolidated company one.
Right.
Um, and I really loved that job. I loved the people that I worked for. It was a family-owned business. There are always some issues with family-owned businesses because they are family, they'd be arguing about stuff in the hallway, that kind of stuff,
Right.
But I really did like the guys that own the business, and really wasn't looking to leave, but I had a headhunter um, get my name through one of the vendors that I used for that business. And so they called me up one day and they said, "Hey, we have this opportunity at this electrical contracting firm. They have a huge Eli Lilly contract for subcontracting at their facilities. And Lilly requires, intense documentation, intense financials. Like when you work for Eli Lilly, which is a large pharmaceutical company based out of Indianapolis here, and they're all over the world, but when you work for them as a subcontractor, they dictate how much you're going to make, which is, at first it was insane to me, that they say you can make a 7% margin. You better not make more than a 7% margin, because they would audit the job and make sure that, you showed your vendor costs with them, you shared your labor costs with them, and all of that stuff. It was very eye-opening, and it kind of really drove me into being more expert at cost accounting. Even more so, I would say, than, restaurants are largely cost accounting, but Indianapolis Electric was very intense in cost accounting. You had to do it for every job. I had to interact with the project managers, got accused several times of trying to make accountants out of electricians. But I figure, you're running a multi-million job for our company. You should at least have some basic financial knowledge there,
Right.
So,
Right.
so I love that job too. And it was two brothers owned the electrical contracting firm. The big problem with it, I thought I would retire from there, but they had all their eggs in that basket. That was that multi-million-dollar Lilly contract. And in 2009, I'm sorry. When Lilly did a bunch of, they had a leadership change and they did a bunch of reorganizing and everything, and we lost our contract. So that said, the electrical contracting firm could no longer afford my salary. And they offered to put me out in like a field position or something like that, but it wasn't matching my skill set, or it wasn't matching what I knew I was worth at that time.
Right.
So I took that leap then and started working on a business plan that would bring CFO type services to small companies who couldn't afford to have an on-board full-time CFO, which that then morphed into what is my practice today, which is largely tax focused. And the ancillary services that my firm offers are focused on making sure that our clients are tax ready and bulletproof from an audit standpoint.
Right.
So
What makes you different from competitors?
what makes me different is, well, I've gotten a lot of clients over the last couple of years who are like, I want to work with a new accountant because the accountant I've been working with won't return my phone calls or answer my questions. So I'm always on top of returning phone calls. If I can't answer the phone right away because I'm with another client at that time, um, or I'm in other meetings or something along those lines, I will call back within, if not that day, the next morning. So I feel like I treat all of my clients as if they're extremely important. Um, I do have doctor's practices, which you and I talked about yesterday, that I would like to have some more independently owned physicians, dentists, chiropractors, uh, optometry practices, those small practices that doctors don't want to do the administrative and business side of their business. And so I offer a package to them that's a monthly retainer. And then my firm, my staff does it all for them. We do their bookkeeping, we do their payroll, we'll pay their bills if they want us to, but often I feel like that's a better kept, to the doctor. So he has some control over his cash flow. But we pay the taxes for the doctors. We file all the tax reports, and we leave nothing to chance, because 100% of those clients, when I've onboarded them, I found that even though they had tax professionals that worked for them, those tax professionals weren't taking care of all of those pieces. So subsequently, those doctors had tax issues that they either didn't know about, or maybe they knew about it, that they just, kind of got lost on their desk or something.
Right.
So we had to resolve back tax issues as part of onboarding that client, while we were also getting them set up on our services so that that wouldn't happen in the future. So I guess, it sounds self-serving, but I really do care about my clients and their businesses. I have clients who run small businesses across the board. They're everything from a restaurant to an automotive shop to an optometry practice, for example.
Right.
So I don't discriminate against who I'll take as a client, so much as, I have to know you're a legitimate business, and I have to know that you're committed to keeping compliant with
Right.
the rules.
And what accomplishments are you most proud of within your business?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that I've sustained it for 12 years now. you know, I make a profit, not a big one. I'd like it to be a bigger one, but that's an exercise in, it seems like the more revenue I make, the more my bills are somehow. So, it's just like any household budget too. It's like, you kind of grow to fit your environment. So, I'm looking at, do I really need to do that marketing campaign? Do I really need to take that opportunity to buy a piece of equipment, or to buy another? I was approached recently to buy another practice, and I really had to put pen to paper, honestly. And my result was, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that right now, because I've got a little over 400 clients currently, and I'm looking to put on, hopefully I'm doing a marketing campaign through LinkedIn, which is kind of how we met. I'm doing that to attract some more physician practices to that packaged services product that I have. So I'd like to put 10 of those on, and then I could afford to hire another professional. because currently I'm the only licensed professional.
Right.
So I'm very proud of what I built here. And I want to keep building it, and I'm very proud of the small businesses also whom I've helped overcome tax problems, that I've helped them overcome cash flow problems just by simple exercises like don't let people drive off your lot with a car you fixed before they pay you. I mean, I literally told a client, I love your heart in that, because, you let the single mom drive off the lot before paying the bill for the brake job you did. But at the same time, you can't sustain your business if you don't get paid. So, and it's kind of something that I will tell clients who are like, well, why's my bill so much or whatever? I'm like, because that's what I need to get paid to, that's what I'm worth. Would you go to your job if your boss told you you wouldn't get paid this week?
Yeah.
Would you keep going? So you kind of have to look at it from that standpoint of what's best for the business.
What's
I
what?
do. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
I was going to say I do a couple of not-for-profit. I have a couple of not-for-profit clients, and that's kind of a mantra too. Just because not-for-profit is in the title of your business or in your business model doesn't mean you shouldn't make a profit, because you're not going to be able to sustain whatever charitable programs you're running if you're not making a profit. So that's always like the bottom line.
Right. And what are some obstacles that you've encountered starting or maintaining your business?
Starting the business, I can definitely remember sitting in my newly minted office saying, right now I'm doing, my husband has been self-employed since before we were married. So this was like a big jump for me to come from a six-figure income every week, every month to, okay, where am I going to get clients now? How am I going to find people who are going to pay me to do what I do? And so I would say in the beginning, and I had to go network, which I'm more of an introvert by nature than an extrovert. So networking really scared the Jesus out of me, but I did it and I grew from it. And I always recommend to every small business owner, it's the cheapest form of marketing too. You just go to some network groups, go to your local BNI or your Gold Star or your H7, Rainmakers is one that we have here. Join the Chamber of Commerce, get out there, get to know other people, because especially with my business, I think every business, now that I think of it, it all depends on relationship. People aren't going to buy whatever you're selling or subscribe to your services if they don't know, like, and trust you. So I did a lot of networking. I had to really hone it down because you can make a career out of networking if you let yourself, and then the kind of business that I have is I actually do have to sit down at the desk and do work for the clients, for the taxpayers. So just building that book of business originally, and then watching it grow and morph, because like I said, essentially I was just going to do services like bookkeeping, payroll, and CFO consulting type things. And then I would get asked constantly, well, can you do my tax return too? Well, yeah, I can, so it kind of flipped to where now the firm is very largely tax focused, but we still do those consulting things with clients. I offer my clients, especially the ones on a retainer type package, services package, to meet with me once a quarter, because that tax planning becomes invaluable. We find things before they happen, and we can fix them. Because if you wait till January 1st, anytime after December 31st, it's too late to fix anything for that year, you
Yeah.
know? That is something too that I think separates me from all the other accountants out there, because you can throw a rock and hit 10 CPAs or EAs out there practicing, but a lot of them, they just want to get your stuff at the end of the year and do your tax return. That's all they're focused on. And I'm more focused on the whole approach, you know.
Right.
I'm also just to say, I'm a subject matter expert for SCORE and for the Indiana Small Business Development Council, which are both subsets of the SBA. And I think most states have these, but just happen to be in Indiana, so that's where I land. But I do speeches to either people who have started a business or they want to start a business. And so I have often said that, yeah, it's really easy to just say, I'm going to start a business, but then these are all the things that you have to think about and that you have to do to actually start it and protect what you started and stay compliant, because business ownership inherently comes with tax burden.
Right.
There's no way around that unless you don't make anything. And who starts a business saying, gee, I hope I don't make anything of this, you know? So
What's one of your biggest business insights that
business,
that spurred you along, that allowed you to grow your business more?
oh, from my own business perspective,
Right.
it's just staying conscious of cost versus revenue. It goes to also, I have to somewhat practice what I preach to my clients and look at my financial statements. And, you know, so if I'm spending too much on marketing, for example, and I'm not getting a large return on investment for that, my cost to attain a client is ridiculous then. And so I have to adjust. So I think it's just always, for me, it's being aware of the things that you're spending your money on. You know, in any business, your two largest expenses, or your largest expense, is going to be payroll. So also making sure that employees are engaged and invested in the same kind of culture that I want to create, which every client's important. I don't care if they're the smallest revenue client or the largest revenue client, you treat them as if they're gold, because they are. You build your business. They're the legs of your business, if you will. So
Right.
without them, you don't have anything.
That's a really wise perspective.
So yeah, just being really conscientious of your cost. I know a lot of my clients, I'd say 99% of them, probably 100% of them even, do not look at their financial statements unless they're on the phone with me on that quarterly meeting. And I try to watch out for the financial, look at my clients' financial statements like maybe once a month and see if I see anything that's like really out of whack, like, did you know your cost of goods is 50% of your revenue? That's not sustainable, So, things like that I'll bring to their attention without the client, the taxpayer, actually uh, a lot of them will say they don't know how to read their financial statements, which is, I think that as a business owner, honestly, you need to learn how to read your financial statements. You need to understand what those are telling you, not only about your profit and loss, because a lot of people can look at a profit and loss statement. A lot of them just go to the bottom line, oh, I'm making a profit, so I'm good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your business is in good shape. Cash flow. I used to have a boss that used to always tell me, this is back in another life when I would work for a CPA firm, but his mantra was cash is king, cash is king. And I never really understood it until I got older and started in these roles where I'm running businesses or I'm running my own business. That cash flow is everything. And just because you look at your income statement and you see a positive bottom line, that doesn't mean that your cash flow is flowing in good shape. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your equity in your business is in good shape, which is, I kind of get preachy about that with clients. If you want to take a distribution, you can't take a distribution if your basis is negative. And I've had a lot of clients who are like, well, what is basis again? What is equity? They really kind of go hand in hand. So, you can't take a distribution if you don't have that, have that in a positive light, because then it becomes a taxable event. So, so I try to educate my clients on what they're seeing when they look at their financial statements.
Right. And
But
what's your biggest financial lesson for people starting their own businesses?
try to avoid using your own credit to build your business from. And I've partnered with another company who specializes in helping businesses build business credit. A lot of people don't realize that your business credit score is separate from your personal credit score. And if you're going to spend money on your business, you want to be able to not have to personally guarantee that revenue, not revenue, but you don't want to have to personally guarantee the loans. So you start out, and it does take at least 2 years to build. So, and if I'm being honest, when I started my business, I emptied my 401k to do it, which I wouldn't suggest that anybody do, because that comes not only with income taxes, but if you're under 59 and a half, you're also going to have penalties. And there are ramifications for doing it that way. But at the time I was still learning. So I would say, if you can do it in a way where you don't have to go out and get a ridiculous business loan, or use your credit line, your personal credit line. I've seen some businesses go bankrupt from using their home equity line and their personal credit lines to build their business. And then when the business didn't work out, they personally had to file bankruptcy. So that is another area. I can get pretty preachy about all of this, because I find myself passionate about helping entrepreneurs, small business owners, kind of avoid the mistakes that I've seen people make, and the mistakes that I personally made. And yeah, I built my 401k back up. Actually, it's a SEP now, but
Amen.
it's you just want to be careful about how you finance your business,
And
because
sorry.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. If somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps and to follow your success, how would they do it? What would be the first steps
In my industry or in any industry?
in
Um,
your industry?
in my industry, first of all, you have to make sure that you have all your licensing in place so that you can do what you need to do for your clients. I ended up um, going the enrolled agent route because it gave me more, well, it gives me more tax specific continuing education, for one thing. As I mentioned before, when I worked for a CPA firm, I didn't like doing the audit and attestation work because number one, it's tedious. Number two, they don't want you there in the first place most of the time because a bank is, or somebody who is an investor in the company is requiring that audit. And the people who are running the company, they don't want you there. They feel threatened by you. So I decided I didn't want to do any audit and attestation work. So keeping a CPA license would have had me spending money on CE that I had no interest in pursuing career-wise. And so I wanted to do more in the tax and the business management areas.
Right.
And so the EA license is something that I went towards. And a lot of people don't know what an enrolled agent is, which is kind of concerning to everybody in my profession because we are accountants. We can do just about everything a CPA does except for audit and attestation work. So, I think as a national organization that NAEA needs to get on top of really promoting what an EA license is and how it's used and what EAs can do for companies.
Right.
But yeah, I would say licensure, tenacity. I was just at a Boss Ladies thing, which I'm featured in a magazine called Indiana Boss Ladies of 2022. So we just had our gala last night, which is why I'm not, I was out late. So I'm not wanting to use the video today. But, there's no secret sauce, really, in starting and maintaining and building a thriving company, except for tenacity. Determination and tenacity are the secret sauce, if you will. You have to be aware of so many things, marketing wise, financial wise, which is where I come in to help. I'm sure there are other hats that come along with the different, most people start a business because they're good at what they do. That I always use the analogy, like when I speak for SCORE or ISDBC, I'm good with fixing things. I've got a truck, I've got a hammer, I'm going to go out and monetize this. Well, that's great. But here's what you got to think about what that means. You're effectively self-employed at that point. If you receive a 1099 from your employer, you're self-employed. So you've got to be aware of what you're spending, number one, and track what you're spending, because you don't ever want to pay tax on the full revenue that you've collected. Revenue is not income. Income is what's left after you pay the bills. So I kind of walk young entrepreneurs through those steps a lot. And because they just don't think about it. They think, I got this crazy money contract with this firm that wants to pay me to do web design or something along that lines. I'm thinking of a new one of my newer clients. She was offered crazy money to work outside the W-2 realm. And so, there are a lot of things that we have to do with her in thinking into, what are the expenses of having that home office? What are the expenses of having to meet with various clients? And are they your clients, or are they the 1099 contracted clients? So there are a lot of dynamics there that really need to be thought into. And are you going to be a sole proprietor? Do you need to form a single member LLC? Are you going to have a partner? Because that changes that dichotomy. If there's more than one person involved in the company you're building. One of the biggest mistakes, for lack of a better word, I'll just call it a mistake, that I see a lot of newly formed companies do, is they form as an S corp right out of the box. That's overkill. Unless you're at the point in your company where you're ready to hire people and pay yourself a salary, forming an S corp can be a big mistake. So, but lawyers like that because they say there's more of a corporate veil. But what creates the corporate veil is the legal documents behind it. And that you can have a single member LLC, and as long as you have a good operating agreement behind it, written by a lawyer, which I often advise my clients. I'm not a lawyer, so I suggest they meet with a good business lawyer and get that package put together, because that package of legal documents is their veil. Just forming an LLC is not a veil. Just forming just forming something that has INC ink behind it. It's not going to be a veil if you don't have all of the required documents behind it. So, so I forget what your question was.
It was how to follow in your footsteps. But finally, what's a final message you'd like to leave with our audience?
Believe in yourself. If you have a passion for something and you feel like you can take that passion and make that into a money-making business to pay your mortgage, to put food on your table, to do whatever you want to do in life, have faith in yourself and forge ahead and don't give up. Because, and hire people who can help you do the things that you're not good at. I'm great at the financial end of a business. I'm terrible at marketing. So I hire people to do my marketing for me, so do what you're good at, outsource what you're not good at. Do pay attention and learn how to read your financial statements. Make sure that you have financial statements. I can't tell you how many businesses I've met throughout the last 12 years who are like, I don't feel like I'm big enough to have, or I don't feel like I need QuickBooks, or I don't feel like I need to really have financial statements. My business doesn't have that many transactions. Well, it really has more than you can imagine, and there are really more things that you can take as legitimate tax deductions than a lot of people can think of off the top of their heads. So that's kind of where I come in my profession, and help those small business owners think into those things, you know. But first and foremost, believe in yourself and be tenacious about building what you want to build.
Well, Sherry, thank you for all of your insight today. I'm sure it was very informative for our listeners, and I look forward to speaking with you more in the future.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.